Oh yeah, oh yeah. Time to start. Hi everybody, Shane and Niall here, back again just to do our top 10 Divine Comedy songs. We covered all their albums in full in 3 videos. If you want to check our channel, we have all albums covered in depth. If you want to find out which we rank the worst, which we rank the best, you can just look back at our content. But now we're just only going to focus on our 10 favorite songs, because who doesn't love a top 10 list?
That's it, yeah. Two very different top 10 lists, I think, in terms of Divine Comedy songs. If you haven't seen the album ranking, you won't know that Shane is a diehard Divine Comedy fan.
Almost
I
like
nearly
you too,
said you too. He's a Divine Comedy fan, so he is coming at it from the real expert opinion. I am somebody who was familiar with Divine Comedy, familiar with the singles. For the album exercise, I got more familiar with a lot of the album songs. So coming at them a bit more like somebody who is a bit more new to Divine Comedy, essentially. Before we start, though, it's just a reminder for everybody to like and subscribe. Tell us what you think your top 10 albums are in the comments.
Top 10 songs.
Top 10 songs
And albums.
and albums, yeah.
So, do you want to go for? I'll tell you what. I'll go for my first song, which is kind of a controversial one, but it's actually taken from the Casanova album called "The Frog Princess." I love the music. I think the music is so lush. The music is stunning. It's a song about the Casanova character coming across this girl. Frog Princess, actually, this is controversial because Frog Princess is actually a racial slur. It's like coming across this French girl and being a little bit bemused by this girl because she also claimed, just like him, that she was no interest, that she had no interest in love. You don't really love me and I don't really mind because I don't love anyone. That stuff is just a waste of time. These are her words. And I think I really like that the Casanova character is really suspicious of her having these viewpoints because this is his shtick. This is the shtick that he comes with. I don't love anyone. I don't need any of that stuff. But the fact that he's suspicious of her, also saying something similar, it kind of leads to him realizing he's a fraud. It sort of reminds him, I don't believe you. He doesn't believe her because deep down he doesn't believe his own shtick. And I think it's cleverly explored in the song. But the song itself, beautiful trumpets, beautiful arrangements, very kind of, just a stunning song with a kind of a little clever satirical element to it as well, or a clever commentary element to it as well.
Okay.
Great. Your number 10.
Okay, my number 10 is Leaving Today. That is from Absent Friends, as far as I can recall. And it's one of Absent Friends, an album with a lot of lush strings. I think it really where they bring out all the stops when it comes to orchestral arrangements. I think this is a really nice slow burner of a song that takes advantage of that sort of approach in that album. One song that I didn't actually wasn't too keen on. It was a grower. It was a song I liked, but after a few listens, I said, "Right, this really is, one that I really liked." I had it actually higher on my list until more recently. I thought, actually, you know what, I do like it, but I don't like it better than the others. But I do think it's, I do really enjoy it.
Yeah, I have to say, I think that's quite a surprising choice. Like, it is a very pretty song, a lovely song about a father leaving his husband and child and feeling, I suppose, regret about it or feeling, lonely about it. But it's a pretty song, but it would have been nowhere near my top 10. So, but it's okay. That's the beauty of Divine Comedy.
The other thing is, though, this is from my first glance of hearing the songs and not listening to them and picking them apart the same way you have. So maybe it's a function of this is one that struck me with my listening, but maybe if I listen to them all as much as you have, it'd be very different.
That's for sure. Now the next one, I might go into a slight bit more detail with the next one with some of the others, because this is one I didn't really get a chance to go through when we did our video. So I just want to talk a little bit about the lyrics of this one, because this is taken from Bango's The Knighthood called Neapolitan Girl, and it is inspired by a writing by I think Norman. Oh, I kind of forget his name now. but he basically, it was diaries taken from World War II in Naples, and about how he met this captain who is seeing this prostitute called Lola, and it was just it was kind of his observations of life in Naples, and his observations about this girl Lola, which Neil Hannon has been inspired to write a song about. So I just want to give you, so it's, what's beautiful about this song is that it's delivered in such a kind of breezy, airy melody. It swoops along, really briskly with great energy and very jolly, sort of cheerful melody. But the lyrics, the juxtaposition between that cheerful, jolly melody and the dark lyrics, I really like. Stuff like this: through the rubble of the bombed out streets, through the squalor and the poverty, walks a proud Neapolitan girl with a head of thick black curls. She doesn't care about right or wrong, just about where the next meal's coming from. Innocence can often be another one of war's casualties, but innocence can be restored with a visit to the prophet's sore. For 10,000 lira, he can find mislaid. He can find, no, this is rhymed. He can find mislaid virginity. His dirty needle, and he sings, his dirty needle leaves a trail of scars and keeps her at the peak of her sexual powers. And that is a reference to the doctors used to kind of, prostitutes used to give injections to kind of restore the hymens or something like that. It's a very odd. I don't know. I'm not going to go into detail about that, but it was just kind of a dark kind of thing. Through the city, she takes him riding on the 133 through the city to the cemetery where the Neapolitan girls go down behind the headstones. Oh, the quickening breath and muffled cries as life and death become entwined. Now, baby, just pretend you don't see him lusting in the mausoleum. And I won't go through the rest of it, but I just think those images kind of just are really striking images. And I think the reason he has the melody so jolly while singing about such a dark topic, I think he's kind of representing our indifference. It's kind of sort of highlighting our own indifference to the darkness that some people have to, dark lives that some people have to live. Okay, so that's a brilliant song. Number 9.
My number 9, Sunrise. You'd have to remind me which album that's from.
Fin de siècle. End of the century.
Yeah. So Sunrise. I enjoy it. It's about the Troubles, and it make sure I get the right song here now. Sunrise, about the Troubles.
I was born in London, Derry.
I
was born in Derry City to a proud and
okay. I thought that was Promenade.
No, Promenade. No, you're thinking of Summerhouse. Summerhouse and Promenade.
Oh yeah, Summerhouse. No,
Sunrise is at the very end.
Sunrise.
Yeah.
No, Sunrise is the song I'm talking about. Yeah. So about the Troubles in Northern Ireland and his. I don't know if it's experience or views on just a different. I don't know.
We had a debate about Sunrise, where we talked about
my thought is so he makes the point that it's what matters about words, like Derry versus London Derry, who cares about it? But then we had a debate as to, well, it means something to some people, and it is symbolic of different communities in Northern Ireland. So there is an argument there that in one sense he is trivializing it a little bit, that there's more to it than just the name. The name stands for something else, but at the same time there is a point that we're all humans at the end of the day.
It's basically an anti-violence song, and he's because at the time there was the peace agreement, and it looked like it was going to be the end of the Troubles, and he was just celebrating that point and trying to argue that, make his case that violence can never be accepted. But maybe he did so in not the most is it the most balanced or
sensitive? I don't know.
No, it's not saying it's not sensitive, but it doesn't take the whole, I suppose, political and cultural context into account, and that it's not as simple as who cares what name you call a town. Like I love the song. I think it's just such a gorgeous, the way it builds and the strings and the melody is so beautiful, and then who cares when you're I think he gets that point across when he says who cares what name
When you're
He says,
6
"Who
feet
cares what
underground.
name you call it now?" But he says, "Who cares what laws you're governed by?" Now that's a bit. Who cares what laws you're governed by? Laws can. Uh,
I think he means, does it mean who cares if it's one? Well,
one
yeah,
party
no,
or the other. Like, who cares what laws you're governed by?
yeah,
But I
fair.
think when he really nails it, who cares when you're 6 feet
Beneath the
beneath
ground.
beneath the ground?
Yeah.
And then there's a beautiful like bells and break into kind of, I don't know whether it's glockenspiel, and then the big
But
booming
the
bells
build
of
up in the song and the climax at the end, like it works really well, and it just and the final line is delivered as it reaches that musical climax. It just adds greater weight to the
yeah.
point. It just
It's
yeah,
the sunrise. Can you feel? It's like it is very hopeful. It's a very hopeful
yeah,
song
it is
in
hopeful.
an album where there's a lot of dark songs in that album as well. So it is very hopeful, and I think overall we can't criticize it too much for that lyrics, where the fact that he didn't produce a very detailed
Yeah, but a song is
sociological
simple.
analysis.
Yeah,
It's a song about peace, about
his heart is in
hope.
the right place.
Your heart is in the right place. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. He's not a political commentator or historian or anything like that. So number 8 for me is a song called "From Fin de Cercle," and I just realized when I was going through this top 10 how much I love this. That I love this album even more than I thought, because so many of their songs in it were in contention. But it's actually an album track called "Commuter Love," which is about the character, whether it be Neil or the character in the song, falling in love with a woman that he sees at the train station every day. And it's all about projection, and the projection is a theme, a common occurrence in Neil Hannon characters, especially when it comes to a man projecting onto the idealistic woman, or the ideal woman onto whoever it is the subject. But yeah, I just like there's a few lines here where she's not like the others, with her papers and her headphones on. She reads novels by French authors with loose morals. She can do no wrong. And then the brilliant line says, "I wouldn't say I'm obsessed. I don't want to see her undressed. But we can be prince and princess in my dream." Just the juxtaposition where he's deluding himself, he's deceiving himself, trying to make it seem like his motives are honorable. I'm not obsessed. I don't want to see her undressed, but we can be prince. Like, I'm not obsessed. I don't want to see her undressed. But then a line later he's saying, "We can be prince and princess in my dream." And we're dancing, and it's all projection. We can all relate to kind of the fancying someone on a train, but this is going to another completely different level, and it's captured really well by the guitar solo at the end, which is kind of ascending and getting more and more desperate. And the very final line is, "She doesn't know I exist. I'm going to keep it like this. I'm not going to take any risks this time." And it just shows that, in fact, in a way, he's happier in his fantasy, kind of like, and it's also something we can relate to as well. It's like, she doesn't know I exist. I'm going to keep it like this. I'm not going to take any risk. I'm too much of a coward to face rejection, So there's a lot of stuff you can take from the song, but beautiful musically, beautiful strings that accompany that desperate guitar solo, and just really, really great song.
Okay, my number 7 is one I don't think Shane likes at all. Note to Self from Regeneration. Isn't that right?
Regeneration, yeah.
And there's only one. Like, okay, I like it. It's like a guitar based song, and one element that I like the general tune to it, but one thing that really stands out to me is like it gets sort of heavy 3/4 of the way through, and then he sort of it's almost like he has some sort of mental breakdown, and he goes, "What the fuck is happening?" And then just sort of screams it out, and you feel like, right, okay, there's some sort of bit of angst or something coming through here, has a bit of a bite to it. Yeah, like and it's something extra. Like, you have the normal flow of the song, and then this extra little bit of something comes in as well. It raised it above the normal flow for a song.
Yeah, I like that one as well. Like you said, I didn't like it. No, I do. I really like that song. I think that the verse, the guitar riff, it's very kind of hypnotic.
Yeah.
It also captures the confusion of the character of Hannon, the narrator of the story, really well. Some great lyrics where the narrator is kind of like confused. He wants to. He doesn't have any certainty in his life anymore. Like, he's all the time changing his mind. So Monday or Saturday, restate my assumptions. A writer writes for himself, not for you. And the next day he's saying, restate my assumptions. A song is not a song until it's listened to. So I think he's wrestling with this notion of, and it's explored in other songs like Bad Ambassador as well, where he doesn't want to be pigeonholed.
Yeah.
And Bad Ambassador captures that well. But he's trying to find his place. He doesn't, it's kind of like, does he want artistic integrity? Does he want fame and fortune? He wants both, obviously.
Yeah.
But I don't know if all that stuff is maybe I'm reading into subtext that isn't there, but yeah, I think there's some. But like, as well as say, the guitar parts, the heavy part is cool, but I think the chorus is when there's that melodic guitar harmony. That is, when they most become reminiscent of. It's beautiful, but it's most reminiscent of the kind of stuff you heard from Radiohead. Where those guitar melodic lines that all fit so well together.
Yeah.
Kind of meld so well together. You got anything else to say about it?
No. I think that's pretty much it for me on that one.
Right.
Okay, number 6 now.
Number 6, it's number 7, isn't it?
Sorry,
number 7 is a song from a short album about obsession and neediness, which aka a short album about love. It's all about Neil Hannon in his 20s. All these characters, songs about characters writing, usually desperate characters, needy characters. It's all about what the person, the subject matter can do for them. That was the idea of love in this. So that's why it's an interesting album. But this is a really unhinged song called If, and it's a beautiful, very, very romantic melody that, as it goes along, becomes, the strings make it sound more and more sweet and more melodic. But the lyrics themselves become more and more psychotic. And like, just to give you an example, at the start, it's like, if you were the road, I'll go all the way. A lot of cliches. If you were the night, I'd sleep in the day, right? If you were the truth, if you were a tree, I would put my arms around you and you could not complain. So there's already little hints of it getting a bit psychotic, that I'll have control over you. If you were a tree, I would carve my name into your side and you would not cry. 'Cause trees don't cry, and he's singing it in such a romantic kind of delivery, which is a great juxtaposition. And just to finish it off, it's like kind of saying, if your name was Jack, I changed mine to Jill for you. It just the lines are getting more and more ridiculous. If you were a horse, I'd clean the crap out of your stable and never once complain. If you were a horse, I would ride you through the fields at dawn. And I would sing about you in my songs, etc., etc. But lastly, if you were a dog, if you were my sister, if you were my little girl, I would find it hard to let you go. If you were my sister, I would find it doubly so. It's just getting so unhinged. If you were a dog, I'd feed you scraps from off the table, though my wife complains. So now the character has a wife. Like, it's like all this romantic music, and we really are dealing with a horrible psychotic character here. And it's just funny, and the music is beautiful, and it's just great. And then finally, at the very end, the music finally catches up with the psychotic lyrics when the music starts turning a bit psychotic towards the end, where he goes, I'm sure you'd like it better then. You'd be my loyal four-legged friend. You'd never have to think again. And we could be together till the end. Number 6.
Number 7.
For you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so 7 for me is To the Rescue from... What's the name of the album?
Foreverland.
Yeah,
great
an
choice.
album that wasn't great, but
That's a solid album. Come on now.
Anyway, I think
no disrespect.
it is a song that sort of stands out, and it epitomizes what I like about Divine Comedy, in that it has this sort of soaring melody. Like, that's what he can do really well, and he does really well in this song, essentially.
Yeah, beautiful arc. It's dedicated to Cathy Young. Beautiful for her animal charity work, and as I say, beautiful chorus, beautiful strings, a beautiful trumpet solo towards the end that it really drives the song to a climax. And it's Divine Comedy doing ballads at their best. Yeah, so I'm ready to go to number 6 is a song taken from Promenade, and that is Neptune's Daughter. Now, this is probably one of the most unusual or controversial choices. But I just think this song is stunning. A beautiful piano line that's underpinning it, but it's just the string arrangements around it, and it's so moody. It's taken, it's about the two couples who are in love, and the girl who ends up going out into the sea, and it just gets a bit fantastical, like where she's drawn towards the water, stepping out into the night. The water cold against her skin, like conceals a multitude of sins, and laughing like a little girl, she enters an enchanted world where seaweed girls with silver tails play games upon the backs of whales. They want her to come home with them. They drag her legs and drag her. So it's all this relationship is like this notion of Ernest Becker has, is that when you're in love, you become gods in your own minds, and at the very end, down again, and into the sea he strides and takes her in his arms, and he carries her back to shore. So it's almost like she's become kind of some kind of a mermaid in the story, like but he saves her in his head. He's saving her. It's just beautiful imagery, but I just think musically just so moody, and so just the strings are divine. Yeah, go on.
Okay, 6 for me is Time Watching. Yeah, I just really enjoyed the string arrangement. I thought it was something that was not something you see in pop music nowadays. You can see his classical and choral influences from maybe when he was growing up in a household where his father was a bishop, and brings it into pop music, which you don't normally see. Great sort of unusual sort of chord progressions, unusual just the way the songs are constructed is not something that you see in pop music, so and too often anyway. So yeah, that was one of my favorite. Yeah, great song.
Yeah, I won't. Duane and I also agree. It's a fantastic song, both versions, Liberation version and Short Album About Love. Although I slightly prefer a Short Album About Love. But yeah, on to number 5, controversial picks, because you said you didn't like this, and it is a kind of one of those songs that divides fans, called Eric the Gardener from Fan de Siècle. And I love this song. I love the kind of hypnotic hook, do 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 do, which starts out with kind of like piano, but then later on in the song, the bass line continues on. The hypnotic bass line continues that hook on. But musically, it's really, really pretty. And then I love when the drums kick in. I think some of I criticized the drums on Generation Sex for being a bit bland, but I think a lot of the drumming in this album is a great album. But I love that. I just think that it's a really cool drum beat that kicks in, and it's about Eric the Gardener. Let me see. Eric the Gardener, or Julius Caesar came, saw, conquered, went away, because it rained here all the time. Too many sniffs and calls, gallop with Roman knolls. So he left it all behind for Eric the Gardener to find. Eric the Gardener the story is Eric Lowes, who found kind of Roman artifacts, kind of Roman jewelry and stuff like this from the Roman times. And I suppose the song is about Julius Caesar knew that when his life was true, something of him would stay behind, not in a Roman tomb or an Italian womb, but buried deep in English slime. And then finally, Julius Caesar sleeps soundly beneath your feet with the rest of humankind. Dig deep and dig some more. Dig to the planet's core. Dig till you've gone out of your mind. But all you will ever really find is Eric the Gardener, which I think he's trying to say, yes, Julius Caesar has a legacy, but what really does it matter? Because under the ground, he's still the same. He's no different, than Eric the Gardener. Like we're all the same once we're dead. What really does matter? We all want legacy, but does it really matter afterwards? And I think the music captures that really well. Is that this is why it's so divisive, because of the dramatic. It goes on a long time, doesn't it? And there's a lot of very repetitive string lines, although it's always adding something new in the kind of progression. But it goes on and on and on. I think that's to capture kind of just the repetitive of life, you could say. And then it takes a dark turn towards the end, and I think a sudden dark turn towards the end, which I think sort of represents the fall in life, where finally we're on the way out and there's no turning back. And I think there's a lot to take from this song. I think it's beautiful, and yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, so this is number 5. My number 5 is Bad Ambassador. Is it the lead single from Regeneration?
It is the lead single from Regeneration, yeah.
It's a good sort of guitar rock pop type song. One thing, so that really appeals to my sort of definitely a rock fan at heart. So that really appeals to me. You get a sense of the sort of production values that go into it, similar to the other production values you see with Radiohead. It feels it has that sort of feel to it in parts. But it seems so polished. Like I think everything, every element of the song, it feels like a lot of thought went into it, and it's refined and everything optimized to the nth degree. So yeah, I think it works really well. I remember when I was listening to Regenerate, like when I was going through all the Divine Comedy songs, albums for this project, and when I got to Bad Ambassador, I said, okay, right, now here we are. This is my type of thing. And yeah, that's what I really like about it.
Yeah, and it's like a great, once again, great climax. I actually listened to that song today, would you believe? And it's like, wow, yeah, that is a great song. And as you say, great guitar solo, and he drives it home at the end with the strings, and it's great climax at the end. Okay, so on to number 4. Number 4 is Our Mutual Friend. Yeah, do you have that in your list as well, or is that a surprise? Is that a surprise?
It might be a surprise.
All right, okay.
But you can. It's your opportunity.
Well,
to,
if you
to
do
give
have
the
it on your
detail.
list, it means that we don't have to. It's one of the first times we don't have to cover this same song again. But yeah, Our Beautiful from Absent Friends. It's a kind of Divine Comedy classic. Most Divine Comedy fans, it's like that one song. If you were to say, if you were to ask as a Divine Comedy fan, if you were to ask what song, if you wanted to introduce Divine Comedy to somebody new, what song would you do it with? You probably would do it with Our Mutual Friend. Just so melodic. It's about meeting this girl, seeing her at the pub, meeting her later at the nightclub, and getting on really well, and kind of falling for her in that night, and just kind of it describes this amazing experience where it just was like a magical connection between the two of you, and then a little bit of a twist in the morning, and I'm not going to go into the twist there, but just beautifully done. It builds the strings and the oboe and the beat, and so it's just so magical song.
Yeah. And to add, like, excellent. I've agreed all the stuff you said. I love it. I love that oboe sound. He used it so well. It's such a beautiful sound. I like one of my favorite instruments in general, but used so well here. And he does this word painting, which is basically, like when used a lot in classical music, where the music explains the word, like the music explains something. So like he says, like, onto the beat, and you can hear the drum beat comes in more strongly then. And also when it gets to the moment in the narrative that's a little bit more ominous, there's like these sort of ominous strings, and they're held, holding you in suspense. What's coming next? Really well done, excellent.
All right, brilliant stuff. And that's the first.
It's one of the first songs that I really heard from the Wine Comes said, yeah, this is class.
Yeah, it like, I don't know, you can't not like it. It's kind of one of those ones that transcends should transcend your taste in music. Like it's every genre should have songs that transcend people's taste in music. I think this is one of those ones as well. So is it your turn? Number 4?
Oh yeah, my turn. So my turn is Down the Street Below, which is an interesting one to choose, but it's a bit like Our Mutual Friend, and it's not actually nice that we were leading into this from Our Mutual Friend, in that it has that sort of a narrative in it that and has nice strings that goes with it, and he tells the story really well about meeting his girlfriend and going for a nice meal and all these sort of things, and he explains, or going to her house for a meal, and he explains it really well. And it's almost like two ideas that are melded together. So it reminds me of the Beatles at the end of life, where you have two distinct ideas, one very sort of string arrangement type idea, and then one that's a bit more lively. And he melds them together quite well. And there are two different themes as well in terms of what's been dealt with. And he comes back then into the nice, the sort of relationship-y type story at the end. Yeah, that's one thing I liked, and it's one thing I wish he did more of. I think those sort of narratives, because I think he does it really well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. There's some lovely lyrics there. She'll be waiting for you in her dressing round with the drink she poured you when she heard the sound. Watch the film, eat the food she cooked, talk of how the film ain't half as good as the book, kiss her sleepy eyes closed and say it's time to slip beneath the shadows of the bedroom blinds. But then this is the key part. Well, it's always a pleasure. Well, it's always a pleasure and never a chore. But you just don't know whether you're doing it for the right reasons. That feeling of, being caught in a relationship where, yes, this person's great, I like this person a lot, but I don't know. I just don't know. It's like it's cold for the season down in the street below, and then in the next verse, it goes completely. He's just talking about other people with their own problems. Men and women go about their business, picking up the last few things for
Yeah.
Christmas. You see that like nice little change, but there's just kind of moments of truth in divine his songs that are very powerful and very relatable. So I'm delighted you chose that one. It's not in my top 10, so but I'm delighted it got its due there. So number 3 for me. Are you ready? This is a Divine Comedy classic as well as the mutual friend. A lady of a certain age. Some of the best lyrics Neil Hannon has ever written. Starts off, tells the story of this kind of socialite lady, old lady now, of a certain age. Well, and back in the day, starts off back in the day, you had been part of the smart set. You'd holidayed with kings, dined out with starlets. So that's kind of the idea from the start. You chased the sun around the Côte d'Azur until the light of youth became obscure. Beautiful little kind of line there and lyric there, and left you on your own and in the shade, an English lady of a certain age. And if a nice young man would buy you a drink, you'd say with a conspiratorial wink, you wouldn't think that I was 70. And he'd say, no, you couldn't be. All right. Just a few more lyrics before I move on. You had to marry someone very, very rich so that you might be kept in the style to which you had all of your life been accustomed to, but that the socialist had taxed away from you. Rich people think anyone who wants to tax is a socialist. All right. You gave them children, a girl and a boy, to keep your sanity, and nanny was employed. And when the time came, they were sent away. Well, that was simply what you did in those days. It's just telling the story really well. One last bit of lyrics, if you don't mind. Your son's in stocks and bonds and lives back in Surrey. Flies down once in a while, leaves in a hurry. Your daughter never finished her finishing school. Married a strange young man of whom you don't approve. Your husband's hollow heart gave out one Christmas day. He left the villa to his mistress in Marseille. And so you come here to escape your little flat, hoping someone will fill your glass and let you chat. And then the chorus, you chase the sun around the Côte d'Azur. And every time he sings the chorus, when she's chatting to that younger man, her age changes. It started off as 70, and then he says, you wouldn't think I'm 63. And then the last verse, you wouldn't think I was 53.
Well, obviously she's exaggerating the whole time.
She's exaggerating, and it sounds like
across.
she's in denial a little bit, and trying to get away with to see what she can say with it. It's kind of like it's sort of not being able to accept the rise and fall. She rose, she fell, and she's still in denial a little bit. But it's what we had to talk about is like the Mona Lisa aspect of this. Is he sympathetic towards her, or is he taking the piss out of her a little bit? And sometimes when he changes the age there, I think that makes me lean more that he's been a bit cynical. But it's hard to know. The details make it. It's just a beautiful depiction, a really relatable. And even though I'm not an old lady, but I can really relate to this depiction of how her life has gone and believe it. Great storytelling, beautiful violins towards the end, and a beautiful like acoustic chord progression. Just a stunning song, one of his best. Oh.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. And I agree. And it's not one of my. Spoiler alert, I don't have it in my top 3, but I do really enjoy that song. Okay, my third one is Eye of the Needle from Regeneration. Story of sort of like religion, talking about, he sets the scene about going to church. I really, again, vivid storytelling, very well, scene is very well told. I could see it clearly in my mind's eye about this, like the vision of people going up for communion at mass or whatever. Really, like, just completely hits it on the head. Lyrics are great. The whole idea of the cars in the courtyard,
Churchyard,
shiny and German, yeah,
distinctly at odds with the
theme of the sermon.
Yeah.
So great. And then like he has the sort of, the sort of melodic ostinato, the sort of repeated idea that comes through every so often, and it gets across the monotony that goes with going to church. But and also monotony that goes with sort of, I suppose, the whole routine in general of going up to communion and all the stuff that goes with when you're at church, and it works well for the theme of the song, but also musically works really well because it keeps you. It changes it ever so slightly. It keeps you that bit interested. Yeah, it works really well overall, I think, and more you hear it, the stronger the message comes through. I think definitely.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree with you. And you've said everything. I'm not going to add anything to that. I think you nailed it. And we can move on to number
Yeah.
2. I love that song, by the way. And I do love the horn as well. I just want to mention the horn. That's the one thing. Is it a horn or an oboe? But it's a beautifully
Can't
haunting
remember.
horn or oboe. And lovely it's a haunting chord progression as well.
It's
there.
yeah, I think you're fine.
Yeah. So my number 2 is also from Promenade. It is a song called Don't Look Down. It's kind of an epic song about, it starts off kind of very kind of breezy about 2 lovers going on a Ferris wheel, and the male character seems to be a little bit afraid of heights, and the female character is trying to and they're both young, is trying to, don't be afraid, like there's nothing to be afraid of, it's just a wheel. But the start of the song is really, really great, but it really ends up being epic in the final third of the song, and the music captures this with the swirling strings, where actually the heavens open up, and it just captures this an idea of, he's in love. This character is in love, but he can't bring himself to fully enjoy the moment, and he ends up having to have an argument with God. And this idea of kind of not being able to cope with ecstasy is also with the kind of just being really, really happy without having some kind of a crash or kind of an emotional crash is dealt very well with in Your Daddy's Car from Liberation. But in this song, just a few lyrics. I know it's the second last song, where he starts having an argument with God, and he goes, and let me see if I can find it. Oh, the air gets clammy, and then a God who, so the wind that blown us dies a quick and painless death. The air gets clammy and we hold each other's breath. We get the feeling that we're not alone in this, and then a God who really ought not to exist sticks out a great big hand and grabs me by the wrist and asks me why, and I say, well, God, it's like this. It may be arrogance or just appalling taste, but I'd rather use my pain than let it all go to waste on some old God who tells me what I want to hear, as if I cannot tell obedience from fear. I want to take my pleasures where and how I will, be they disgraceful or distasteful or distilled, and to be frank, I find that life has more appeal without a driver who's asleep behind the wheel. Then God decides that he has taken quite enough of all this atheistic tosh I'm spouting off, and so he calls upon his favourite angel choir to sing of times when men were filled with Christian fire, but overzealous angels flapped their wings too fast, and it just counts bills and bills and bills, and caused the wind to blow and turn the wheel at last, and soon my feet are safely back on solid ground, and then I hear a voice say, don't look down, and it just ends so abruptly, and you don't know what to make of that ending. It's like, what happened there? But it's just powerful stuff. Now, that's kind of classic kind of, this is before Dawkins and Harris and all that. Like, it's not the most sophisticated sort of argument for atheism, but it's a relatable one. But I suppose the point is, and he obviously grew up in church, he was very young, so just for him to come up with something like this, which is so different, from what you'd be hearing in pop music, it's so unique, and yeah, just brilliant.
For me, that song I didn't strike me as a great one, but I do like the way it's used in the album, because I don't look down, and that so abrupt stop, and then it leads in to the next song. I think works really well. Just to add to that, okay. So my number 2 is Through a Long and Sleepless Night, and
Cracking song.
One thing, this is a real grower for me. Like, the first few times I heard it, I didn't think much of it, but then as I heard it more and more, I said, actually, this is great, and one of my favorite songs. It's my second favorite, of course, going by this ranking. What do I like about it? I love musically. I think it's great. I think he has it's this. Well, the theme is very sort of, feels like it's almost like the culmination of the Casanova character. You'll know more about that than I will, but it seems like this is like the real climax of the album, and he's going through some sort of internal conflict, and he's really dealing with it. But you can hear like the verse has, it's almost like a sort of minor key, and it's really sort of, there's not too many, like maybe 1 or 2 chords even. It's very sort of monotonous.
The trumpet is bump bump bump. The trumpet is, but it's almost, very great. There's a great pace and energy to the verse. I think he's almost rapping, not like he's talking the lyrics.
Yeah, he's almost talking.
But there's a desperation in them. Yeah,
and so it's very sort of monotonous, but it gets the message across really well. And then there's a shift when it comes to the verse, and it's like I think there's a key change into the major key, which gives it a lift musically, and then there's a bit more of a melody to the chorus, and also there's like this sort of whole thing about I could put on the perfume. I could wear the perfume and put on the dress and all this sort of crack, which is interesting. We talked about that in the other one, but it's interesting to hear how it's perhaps it's slightly different to what's coming in musically and thematically, a little bit of a change there, but it works really well because it follows on from this sort of dull monotonous thing. And then all of a sudden we have this melody, and the melody just really packs a punch. Then when it comes after that, so I really like that. And then there's the climax of the song, one of the climax of the album is the bit where he's going, what is he talking about? You could live your life whatever way, and then goes, I don't care, and he sort of roars it out, and it's like, yeah, this is like almost like he's
it
really
hits hard. Yeah,
he's really sort of
bored of normality. What was it? Bored of normality. Why not just try to live the bohemian life? Or then again, you can try just to live your own life in the way that you find most of music, and then you just go, I don't care,
and it just really,
and then the trumpets are boom, 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 boom,
and then it leads back into the chorus.
I could put on the perfume.
Yeah, it was great. That's just really well done.
Yeah, it's really, really well done. And it just in the context, I won't say much more about it. In the context of the album, it just plays perfectly because, there's all that bravado of the Casanova thinking, I'm living a great life here. He starts off a bit clumsy at the start of Casanova in Something for the Weekend, but ultimately he becomes, more skilled at being the Casanova and having more bravado about it. By the time he gets to, this is the ninth song of the album, by the time he gets to True Long and Sleepless Night, he's basically admitting, I'm con man with a low self-esteem. He says something like these stale ideals, like he references the stale ideals. He's kind of realizing he's a fraud, and he's kind of going through kind of having, as you say, it feels like moments of gender dysphoria, where even from the song before, where he was like, maybe I hate her because I want to be her in the woman of the world, that he doesn't know how he feels about his own masculinity, and he doesn't know how to relate to women, and maybe he's starting to feel jealous. Maybe he feels the reason he's having this misogynistic attitude all along towards women is because now he feels like I should be one. I feel like there's so much going on there. It's just it's a great album, by the way. So yeah, you should all check it out if you haven't. So it's from Casanova, yeah, but great tune.
So number one.
So now for my number one, have you any idea what it is? Can you guess?
I do know what it is, but only because you told me.
All right, so number one. So number one. Well, you have a guess at home, and let us know in the comments if you guessed right. Because there's a lot of great Divine Comedy songs that I have not named yet. So have your guess. Let us know what your guess was. No one's going to do that. Anyway, so number one is taken from Victory for the Comic Muse. It's a 10th song. It's called Count Grassi's Passage over Piedmont. This song is music from the heavens. This is just stunningly lush arrangements. Well done to Andrew Skeet as well. Obviously, he played a big part in that, as he was the new arranger for, obviously, Neil does a lot of the arranging himself, but I think Andrew Skeet played a big role in this one. Just a beautiful song where it's like a dreamy song where it captures these people journeying off in a hot air balloon and where they travel to, but it's more so the music than the lyrics. It's really cool because he's speaking the lyrics and afterwards he speaks the lyrics, he sings them, and it just works so well. It's kind of like he speaks the lyrics and he sings them. It's a really, really clever way to arrange the song. But there's some lovely lyrics as well. If I'm to die, then let it be in summertime, in a manner of my own choosing. To fall from a great height on a warm July afternoon. And then he talks about the places he's going past: Liververst, Battenberg, Emmental, Syllabub, Muscadet. Throw it all away. We need more height. Oh, Newton, release this apple from its earthly shackles and live to fight another day. But at the very end of the song, this is just a lovely little message as well, where he sings, "Go back from hence you came, the swallows cry. You've corrupted and befouled the ground you walk upon." I'm totally out of tune there, but I love the part where he says, "And now you come to poison the skies. Please, friends," and he says, "Please, friends, forgive this brief intrusion." And I feel like at that very end, I'm like, he says, "Please, friends, forgive this brief intrusion." This song, the way you have intruded in my life, is just like, wow. This is not something that needs forgiveness. This needs thanks, and it's just magical. It's just magic. Beautiful music, gorgeous. Go check it out.
My number one has already been discussed, Our Mutual Friend. I suppose one thing just to say about this, Our Mutual Friend for me, as I said, it was one of the first Divine Comedy songs that I really, really started to enjoy. One of my favorite songs of all, not just by Divine Comedy. So sort of why it's on number one. However, as I got to listen more and more to Divine Comedy through a long sleepless night, was rise and rise and rise into the top. So when I was writing this list, I sort of felt like, I nearly would, if I was to put on a song now, would be True Long Sleepless Night. I have Our Mutual Friend higher, more for legacy reasons, but they're both up there as top songs for me. I don't know if I anything to add beyond what we discussed already.
Yeah.
For A Mutual Friend, like I do really enjoy it. I suppose one thing I'll mention here, I'll go to my notable mentions. Like there were other songs that I enjoyed for different reasons that I didn't include. Lady of a Certain Age, Shane has included. I do really like that song, but I think I prefer the one. Like I obviously prefer the ones that I have there already, but it is a great song, and I do like the way he tells stories. Maybe it's just like, and he is a great storyteller. Maybe it's just that it doesn't ring true to me personally in my life experience as much as maybe the other songs that are there. So that's maybe why it's not necessarily as high. But I still do really enjoy that song. I think it's great. Songs of Love, the Father Ted team, and also a good song in its own right. Also a favorite.
Just one thing about Songs of Love, if you haven't seen episode 3, Songs of Love is the song where we determine and establish that Neil Hannon is actually the king of the incels. He's the incel king. This is the incel anthem. Songs of Love is the incel anthem. If you want to find out why, check out episode 3.
That's a definitely good call to action. And then there's other song, like one thing I do like about Office Politics is the album is that it's very experimental. He tries new things, which is great, and some really interesting things. And one song out of that was Philip and Steve's Removal Company. When I heard it first, I thought, what is he at here? This is ridiculous. I felt like he was just playing around with his music editing software, no actual musicality to it. And then as it went on and on, I said, actually, you know what? This is okay. And then there is a bit of a payoff that you do hear the sort of, it does come back, and you do get the sort of, I don't know, having listened to all these repetitions, it does give you the sort of musical sort of hook and payoff at the end. So it's very different to what I'd normally listen to, but I enjoyed it at the end. And I think to do that, somebody is not easy, and he did that quite well. So that's something I think it's notable to mention that. What about you? You had a few mentions afterwards.
Yeah, I have a few. Like, there's some that I just feel so bad. Like, how could I not have Tonight We Fly? Which we argued about. You didn't like that song.
I feel like it's one of these ones that's hailed as a great Divine Comedy song. I do like it, but I've seen him live, and whenever he plays it live, it gets a huge reaction. I thought, maybe it's because I wasn't as familiar with it and I felt a bit left out. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
But it isn't as high.
Well, look, to me, it's still, I think, it's classic, and I love the fantastical element of, because as we argued about in the podcast, I like the idea, have a dream that you can fly, and I just love this, the imagery of being able to fly over the dogs who bark at our shadow, over the voyeur, over the lawyer, all this kind of stuff. I love that imagery. But Summer House, Neil Hannon doing a nostalgia at its very best, especially towards the end of that song, just really powerful, hits it home well. Sweden, I think it's a really underrated song. I think that's one of those songs that you didn't like it, but it's, to me, that's Divine Comedy at the most overblown, just really totally naff, but also musically delicious. Certainty of Chance, another great song. I'm surprised you didn't. I thought you liked that one. I'm surprised you didn't have that in your top of 10. But that's a really cinematic, lush, orchestration, all that kind of stuff. 3 songs from Office Politics that I really love are the When the Working Day is Done, a dedication to the ordinary working, a tribute to the ordinary working person. I love I'm a Stranger here, as we talked about when we talked about the album, and You Never Work in This Town Again. Great songs. Thrill Seeker, Office Politics itself, some of its funniest ever lyrics. In and Out of Paris and London, Love. Have You Ever Been in Love? From Regeneration, I really like Mastermind and Lost Property. They're my 2 favorites from that song. I love Freedom Road. Wreck-It the Beautiful, haunting song from Absent Friends. Long Slow Suicide, beautiful B-side, really beautiful and funny B-side. From Victory from Commuter days. The Plough, a great story about a more brilliant story writing about a man who joins different kind of cultural groups or different kinds of social groups and finds that something that he doesn't like about them and says he'd plough his own furrow and go his own way, and yet always seems desperate not to do that. I think it's a great one. And I think I'm nearly done there. Is there any other great songs that I've left out? Your Daddy's Car, of course. I'm All You Need. Yeah, just I love that song. Just kind of towards the end, 3-minute mark. There's about a 10-second section of that song, which is just makes me shake. I love it. So yeah, they're just some brilliant Divine Comedy songs. I think Funny Peculiar is a really cute song too. So yeah, okay. I'm happy enough with all that.
Perfect. Okay. Top 10, loads of Divine Comedy songs to listen to if you want to get started. And if you want to hear more about the albums, check out our album videos. Check out our reviews of U2 and some film ones coming up. And if you like what you hear, like and subscribe and let us know what you think in the comments. And
press the notification bell and make sure you let us know your own top 10.
Yeah. Okay.
Cheers, folks. See you now.
Bye-bye.